How are we all doing today? So I'm off to get some supplies. Today I'm at the Wentwood Timber Merchants and I'm looking to buy some live edge wood. So this is a fantastic place, and if you give me a moment I'll just give you a little quick tour around. It's got basically firewood, timber wood, all kinds of nice cuts of wood. It's got a tea room and a cafe, which is really nice for dog walkers and stuff. Hardwood showroom, and it's also got this really nice crafts place. This is the workshop. So this is where they've got all the different types of wood, and as you can see here there's rows and rows of dried live edge wood, which is great. So what I'm looking at here is I want something not just for the worktop, but I want something for the table as well, and also the chopping block that's going to cover the rings. And it's not too badly priced either. So there's a really nice piece of chestnut here as an example. So we'll just pull this out. So lovely piece of sweet chestnut there. That's £35. So this is great. But I've chosen the piece that I want. So I've gone for, it's quite a long piece, but it means I can chop down what I want. But I think it's really nice. So I've gone for this piece here, which is, as I say, quite a long piece, but it was £53 and it's going to fit absolutely lovely. And of course I'm going to oil and stain all that up over time, and hopefully it's going to look really nice. The wood is in the van, it looks massive, but that's great because it's going to give me all that I need. At the moment it's upside down, so I can't tell, but when this is all stained up and all, I think it's going to look really good. Today we're going to be looking at replacing the kitchen work surface, the pull-out and the lagoon table. So for those that have been following what we've been doing, I've basically DIY'd some basic things in there. They were completely temporary. I'll show you in a moment. But the idea was that I could do that and we could use the van while it was being built out. What I didn't want to do was have a van sat on the drive for 8 months, 10 months, a year, however long this process takes. It's always longer than you think, isn't it? However long this process takes. So the idea was that I'd put these temporary measures in place. That way we could get out and about. We could enjoy having the van and what the van brings without worrying too much about having to rush projects and get them done sort of half-assed and super quick. So this way we get the best of both worlds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip the camera and I'll just show you around what we've got so far. The lagoon table is being replaced. So that's one of the main jobs, is that we found this lagoon table fantastically useful on our travels. And that was the other thing for DIY in this build, was the idea that we could use it and figure out what we liked, what we didn't like, what we needed, what we didn't need. And this lagoon table is an absolute bonus. We love that. So over this way, look, we've got our work surface here now. This is quite a small work surface. So there's two things that have been done. Number one, just a temporary piece of work surface there that's just holding, and then on top of this we've got this here, which is it's got the 2-ring burner underneath. Now that's actually worked out really well, so I want to try and keep a version of that because it's great for chopping, and also it's great for taking outside and preparing food as well. So then on top of that we've got our pull out here. Now obviously at the moment it's a bit wonky, it's because I haven't actually got it in its exact position. I pulled it out to measure it, and so I'm just doing this so that you can see what it looks like. So this pulls out as an extension to the work surface, and it's a great extra just for adding on for chopping and preparing and that sort of thing. It also works as a table for working on your laptop and stuff from the driver's seat when it's in its swung round position. So again, all of these things have been tested and tried, and they work really well for us and the way that we want to use the van. As always, excuse the mess. The problem with this is that this is not actually a garage space. I've pulled apart what is a workspace, and it's now at the moment a makeshift garage, which is why there's no shelves, nothing to think. But as you look around, I can tell you where everything is, and everything has a place. So I understand if you're one of those tidy people, you'll be looking at this and going mad at this moment in time, thinking, I couldn't live like that. I agree with you. And everything else doesn't normally look this way. but for now, this is what we've got. It means I can work in the rain. It means I can work in the wind. It means that I can store things and be able to get to them. So I'm making do, and that works out enough for me for now. So my first job, what I'm looking to do right now, is to measure out where on this live edge wood I want the main work surface to be. So the main kitchen area. So I've measured that out in the van, and now I'm going to try and transplant those measurements over here to the wood itself. So obviously I'm looking for hopefully the nicest piece. Now this to me looks like it's going to be the bit that I'm after. So I'm looking for a length of 37.5, which brings me down here, but I also need a width, a minimum 20.25, right? And so that's really going to help to dictate what I have here. So yeah, I can only come down so far because I need to have a certain amount of width on this. What I'm trying to do here is establish the positioning of the bits we're going to have for the kitchen on the piece of wood itself, so I can determine which is the best length to have, because obviously we're going to also chop off bits for the table and for the pull-out. So ideally what I'd like is the pull-out extension to be this bit, so that it kind of matches when it's pulled out, which will leave this bit for the table area. So that's great so far in theory. So what I've got to do now is just make sure that this back edge and this live edge actually line up well enough for that to work out. This is the first piece cut. Now we've got to see whether or not it fits. Obviously, I've been panicking about cutting these, so let's give it a try. That actually looks pretty good. So a little bit of tweaking, but overall, I'm happy with the fit of this. Now my next job is to try and make sure that the other piece is cut to size as well. So what I'm going to do first though from here, as we can see, this is a lovely looking piece of wood. So what I intend to do from here now is I'm just going to place the cooker and the sink and things on top, just so I can get a rough idea of positioning and where they're actually going to sit. Right, so we've got this squared in position now, and I'm happy with its placement. So now I've just got to check that I can get the bits that I need, so the 2-ring burner and the sink and the taps and everything, I can get those aligned, and so they all work and are in place okay. If we look at this now, what I've done is I've moved the 2-ring hob back a little bit, right? So it was a bit more forward, but I'm thinking now that actually that can sit back that little bit further. I just think it's going to look a little bit nicer, and it's going to frame this edge a little bit more. The next part of this we're going to look at is the pull-out. So this is the extension that comes out, if you remember, from the side of the worktop across to the driver's seat. Now, again, this has proved to be really, really handy. So I want to make sure that I can replicate this, and I would like to have it in a way where it looks really visually appealing as well, and it fits the profile of the worktop. The kitchen pull-out has now been cut down, so you can see how that's going to look. I've just wedged it up at the moment, so just to give you guys an idea. Now it's going to slide in to the gap down there, just like the old one did. So it's nothing sophisticated or overly complicated. It's a very straightforward procedure. But that's a really nice piece of wood. And when it's done, you can see there from that picture that it gives you quite a lot of extra chopping space there. And with the lagoon table that sits on the top here as well, then you've got this lovely L-shaped kitchen that you can use with lots and lots of worktop space. I'm left with this. So this is the basic table that we've been using. It's been absolutely perfect, exactly the right size, exactly the right dimensions. So I don't actually want to mess with that at all. I want to cut it exactly to this size. So I've got one rather large piece left, and I'm hoping there's going to be a nice enough piece in there to fit this really well. All right, so I've marked out the table, and as I said, I like the exact size of it. It works fine, so I don't want to change that. So I'm going to try now and cut this, and hopefully it will fit nicely in that space. And this is the new table. So of course it's all got to be prepped up and cleaned and everything, but that's cut now. I'm going to be a bit clever here. So instead of remeasuring the holes and everything that I need, because they're already cut into this worktop, I'm just going to use this, and that's going to be my template. Did I mention I'm not a carpenter? I think that's worth repeating, because I'm pretty sure if there's any carpenters watching this, they'll be pulling their hair out of their head going, that's wrong. And I'm almost certain that it is. However, because I don't know any better, this is the way that I'm doing things. I'm just hoping it works out okay. I really appreciate you watching what I'm doing, and if you like what we're doing, then please subscribe, click the like button, and click the notification bell. The reason for filming these is because I found so many of them really, really helpful, and I'm not sure whether mine are helpful or amusing, but either way, I figured I'd throw my sort of hat into the ring. So as you can see now, it's been marked out where I need to cut. Now it's time to break out the jigsaw and get on with it. All the boards have now been prepped, so they've all been fully sanded down now. Obviously this one's still got to be cut, but everything's been sanded down. So what I'm going to do is I'll cut that, and then obviously I'll finish sanding down the cuts that I've done, but all the bulk of the work has now been done with regards to the sanding and the prepping in that regard. What I think I'm going to do is try and give everything a coat this evening before I wrap up, just to try and get a head start on tomorrow. Good morning. You joined me again today to carry on with this, the work tables and stuff. So I had to do a little bit of shopping last night. My jigsaw gave up the ghost. I'd had the thing for, I don't know, 4 years or so. So I certainly got some use out of it. It's done my last van. It's done a lot of this van. So yeah, it had a good life. Anyway, had to go and get a new one. The nearest place to me is a tool station. And the one that they had in stock was a Black & Decker. So this is only a cheap thing. It wasn't very expensive in comparison to some of them. However, you know, I'm hoping it will do the job. So that's where we're starting today. So you've seen those unboxing things where YouTubers and TikTokers and things, and they unbox something and make a couple of £1,000. Well, here you are. This is my unboxing. And I'll probably make nothing from it, but there you are. Okay, so essentially it's just a basic bog standard jigsaw, nothing complicated, nothing interesting. I'm not going to dwell on it, but what I did get is some extra long jigsaw blades, because the worktop is actually quite thick, and so these will just help to get through it. I have to say, Black & Decker seems so old-fashioned now. Years ago, it was like the go-to brand of tools. I'm not sure what happened over time, but I just feel so old-fashioned now buying a Black & Decker. I feel like my dad. Before I ended yesterday's filming, I mentioned that I was going to try and get a first coat on the woodwork here. Now, I didn't film that because time was marching on and I had to just get it done. This is what this now looks like with the first coat. So I'm really quite pleased with this. I don't know whether you can see that, but I think that looks really, really nice. So this, if you remember, is the pull-out piece that's going to be the extension on the worktop, and it's actually surprisingly light. I mean, you know, it's quite chunky, but it's quite light. Let's see if this fits. Oh, it's snug. It could do with just a little skimming off the end here. Now, this is where the old adage comes true, isn't it? Measure twice, cut once. So this now fits perfect, which is great. Now let's see if it fits. Here we go. So again, it just needs a tiny little skimming off this one side here, and then we should be fine. Hello, buddy, what you got? Ah.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Just curious as to what it is. I tell you what I am going to miss, and that's using this as a, well, you know those drawers, every house has got one, and it's just got all kinds of bits and bobs in it, right? This has become that. So, and there it is. So that now fits in there really nicely. So the cooker's in, that's in. One more hole to do for the tap. So now I'm just going to put all this into the van, and I'm just going to basically put it in position and dry fit it, just to make doubly sure before I go any further. This is more or less now all positioned as to where this is going to be. I've jumped ahead, and now the lagoon table is up and on. Good morning. So here we are again, and now what we're looking to do is put a resin coat on top of the work surfaces. Now they've had a couple of coats of stain, they will be sanded back. So this is the stage we're at now. I'm sort of dreading this a little bit. I've not done this before, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. So what I've got is a pot of epoxy resin. Do excuse the door slamming, that's the wind. Got all the doors and windows open to get some air going through. So as you can probably see, we're in my conservatory stroke part of my home gym. So I've got some epoxy resin here. So it's 2-part, and basically you just mix it together 1 to 1, stir well, and then pour and spread the mixture. Now, obviously a little mixing bowl here. So what I've got is one of these little plastic spatula thing, and then I've got a brush for the edges. Now my understanding is these things need 2 coats. So they need a first coat just to create a surface and let the wood, the porous nature of the wood sort of soak that in and things. And then they need a thing called a flood coat, which is essentially what it says. You just pour it on and allow it to naturally flatten itself. So as you can see to the side of me here, I've laid everything out. I've put it up on some bits of wood, some battens, so that the edge isn't on the floor.
She calls me day and night. I'm sorry girl, you just don't make me feel right. I never meant to make you cry, you were right. Just leave me be, I'm not gonna put up a fight. And every time you wake up feeling worse, and then you check the time. It's never what it feels like, just throw me a dime. If everything was good, then you would feel alive. If everything was good, then you would feel alive.
This is the result of all that hard work. So this is all now prepped up and it's ready to go back into the van. After what has been 3 quite challenging days, I've done things that I've never done before. I've had to learn quite a lot, and carpentry really isn't my skill set. I think now I've got to a point where I'm actually really pleased with the finish on this. So let me show you. The worktop I think looks good. And I think the lagoon table looks really good. When we're looking at preparing food now, we've got a lot of work surfaces now that we can work on. So we've got obviously our 2-ring burner. Now with this, I can just remove these here, and this now sits over the top as a cover, and that then gives me another solid work surface to do chopping on, things like that. I've got our pull-out work surface here. Now this just tucks away like this, so that goes all the way back in and sits out the way nicely. It's on a lip, so that when you push it back, it sits over the end of that lip, and that locks it in place and stops it coming out. So from here now, this is all we do to get it back out. We just pull it out here, and it just sits on there like that, which is great. So now look, we've got all this lovely work surface. We've got all this lovely work surface. So there's plenty of room in here now to be able to cook and just, you know, do some of the things that I enjoy doing. With everything now in place on these worktops, I feel much better, because that was a tough couple of days. But I think the results have worked out pretty good, considering it's a first attempt. So yeah, I'm pleased. And on to the next thing.